Be honest, what's a sentence that absolutely killed you inside, but you pretended like it didn't?
At the beginning of the pandemic, I saw an opportunity to try something I'd never tried before. You see, I was partially raised by a pedophile, and so I never had body hair. I had been reinforced to cut it away the moment it presented itself. And so at the beginning of the pandemic, I was 34 years old. I was like, hey, to my partner, I want to try to rewild my body. I want to know what it's like to have body hair. Now, they were a non-binary babe. They were virtually covered in body hair, but all they had to say to me was, remember, I like you hairless. Now, that was strange because they hadn't liked me at all in many moons. They hadn't tried to touch me in years, and they denied all of my advances. I think that I failed this prompt though because it crushed me on the inside, but I definitely didn't act like it didn't hurt because I left them a few weeks after this event. I'm so glad that I did.
It was when I was 32 years old. My husband and I had been trying to have a baby since we were married at 24. And it was my birthday. And I was sitting in the specialist's office and we had done everything. Surgery, pills, laparoscopies, intrauterine insemination, in vitro, everything. Miscarriages. And he said, well, how old are you now? I said, I'm 32. It's my birthday today. And he looked me dead in the eye and he went, wow, happy birthday. We don't know why you can't get pregnant. You're one of those, less than 5% where we can't figure it out. How about you put your name on an adoption list? Good luck. Happy birthday.
So this was about 2 years ago. I was sitting at home in my bed at night, getting ready to sleep, and I receive a call from my then boyfriend. He calls to tell me that he had been cheating on me since the day we met. Honestly, the pain that I felt in my heart at that current moment, I almost had a stroke. I felt like I was going paralysed. Man could not breathe in that bitch, you feel me? But the bad bitch I am, I made a conscious decision to leave. Immediately. So I did. He spent months trying to win me back with gifts, even went as far as sending his family to my house to beg me to go back with him. No comprende. Not happening. I can talk about it right now because I don't feel anything towards that situation. Man healed like Wolverine after I left. It was mad. Do I regret the relationship? No. I learned a lot of valuable lessons. Thank you for that. I wouldn't be the wise woman that I am today without you.
Oh, Kobe, you look better at 300 pounds. If I could tell you how many times I heard that sentence, I mean, who said I was doing it for you? If you didn't know, that's body shaming. Now you know.
I dated someone for about a year. COVID hit, he lost his job, he moved back to SoCal, and we FaceTimed about once a week. And I told him I needed more from him, and he said, talking to you feels like a chore.
So me and my husband were arguing a few days ago, and he said to me, just because he treated you like that doesn't mean you have to take it out on me. That just hit hard.
The one phrase that really hurt me was when I left the church for doctrinal issues and I didn't like the methodologies. And the pastor, as I left, decides to call me. And he tells me that when I leave this church, my relationship with God was going to be non-existent. I was going to fall back in sin. I was going to fall back to the old ways. There was no way without them that I was going to maintain my relationship with God. And that was such an abusive phrase that at the time, I didn't even register in my mind. And later on, as I would fall back in sin or like sometimes I would mess up, that phrase always stuck in my head, and I thought, I can't go back to God. I would feel shame. Church hurt is very real, and if you've been abused by it, you have every right to take your time to heal. But just know that's not God. That's man.
It was after our second date. I said, hey, I really like you. He said, hey, I think you're a really cool person, but I don't see a future with you, and I don't want to waste my time.
When I was in high school, there's a girl that I asked out to homecoming, and she rejected me. Simply this sentence: no, because we wouldn't look good dancing together.
I'm not smiling because it's funny. I'm smiling because it's absolutely fucking absurd. Me and my father, we ain't really rocking too tight, But I had the bright idea, like, look, man, let bygones be bygones and let's reconnect. So he flew out here to come see me, and we went out to dinner. While out to dinner, there was the awkward silence. Like, we don't really know each other like that. So I'm going to break the ice and I'm just going to get right into it. Like, hey, bro, like, you was gone all this time. I went through X, Y, Z, whoop-de-whoop. He looks to me while I'm divulging some very hard truths. Like, this is hard for me to even speak to. Like, this is my traumas, my abuse, my life. He says to me, Shanita, I really don't want to have this conversation because it's too painful for me to listen to. Sir, this was my day-to-day life. Like, this is what shaped me, molded me, made me to who I am today. And you can't listen to that? I just ate my food.
It was 15 minutes before the divorce got finalized, and she asked me if I had a watch that she had given me. She asked me if I had it, and I told her that I couldn't remember. And she said, okay, I just want to give it to someone else. And I said, I'll let you know if I find it.
I went through cancer, and you're worse than that. Oh yeah, and I got this tattoo for them too.
Mine would have to be when I was married. Was married. I just lost our 4th baby. I kept having miscarriages when I was married, but after I got the DNC, and he wanted me to clean and do whatever around the house, so I did. And I made dinner, and we're sitting down getting ready to eat dinner, and he looks at me and he says, if you don't have a baby for me soon, I'm gonna leave you. And I said, okay. And then I left.
I grew up in foster care from the age of 6 to the age of 18. And I lived with one family for a very large chunk of that. From 8 to 16, I lived with the same family. I always felt othered there. Never really felt like I was fully a part of what was going on. So one year, foster parents decided or announced that they would be going to Nova Scotia on a road trip. They'd be renting an RV and going to Nova Scotia. Obviously, I was excited. I'd never been to Nova Scotia before. I'd never been on a family trip. So when I asked, when are we leaving? She said, oh, well, we're only taking the family, so you are staying behind.
On the 1-year anniversary of our marriage, where things were just not going great, and it was during COVID, my ex-husband came out of the room to me after a nice day out and said, I don't want to go to therapy and I don't want to make it work. And to this day, I remember where I was, and it completely destroyed me, but I pretended like nothing was wrong.
Last year, my grandmother was dying. She had dementia, and I had to say goodbye to her over FaceTime. I was in America, she was in South Africa, and my mother said, Christy, she can hear you, but she can't respond because she was forgetting how to breathe. Worst moment of my life.
There are kids who get beat by their fathers, and they still get to walk them down the aisle. I still can't believe he said that to me.
So a few years back, my cousin had took me to a family barbecue, and there was this guy there that I had never met. Well, her family had a dog, and the dog did not like me. And I thought it was because maybe I have a dog and she could smell my scent on my body. So I'm like, maybe that's why she keeps barking at me. But nonetheless, the dog just would not stop barking. Every time I would come in the house, the dog would bark aggressively at me. And the guy that was there had reacted, and he had said, well, maybe if you take that shit off your face, the dog will stop barking at you. And I just stood there in shock because I didn't even know how to respond to that. I was completely immobilized. And my cousin was like, what the fuck did you just say? Like, she was more angry than I was. I was just in shock. But he later apologized after he realized that I had a skin condition. But
when I was in college, I worked at Applebee's as an expediter. So if you don't know what an expediter is, it's the person basically between the kitchen and the waiters. And you have to be really stern to be an expo because the kitchen is so loud and they're sometimes really mean, and the waiters are really demanding because they're facing the customers. You know, they have a lot of pressure on them. And one day I was being really stern. This one girl was trying to take someone else's food, and I told her she couldn't have it. And my manager was like, "You have to be stern. You're the glue that keeps the restaurant together." And she just looked at me and she was like, "You're such an asshole." And I basically spent the next 4 years of my life being the biggest people pleaser ever.
Are you dumb, stupid, or what's going on? Those were the words used by one of my ex-clients. She's an older person, and she told me those words after I failed to do something to her standards. There was an old unused pot outside, and because I didn't throw it away, even though she did not specify that, I was dumb and I was stupid. The problem is that I was not only her housekeeper, I helped her so much in the final years that her husband lived. Because we lived in the same apartment complex, she would call me at all hours of the day, including in the middle of the night, and my husband and I would go and pick her husband up from the floor when he fell off his wheelchair. I was there through everything, even when her kids weren't. So yes, it absolutely killed me when she called me those things. I waited a few months, but then I had to let her go. She was so abusive, it was safe for me. It was just better for me.